I remember when Jackie wanted to stay home and quit work, and we never had a plan for our money. We just said, yeah, it seems like we can manage it. So she stayed home. And then as she stayed home, that not having a plan, we continued to spend money the way we were spending money. When she was working, we had other income. And I think we just pushed it aside, or me, not, I shouldn't say we, I should say me. We pushed it aside because I was in charge of the finances. And I just stopped thinking about it. We'll just spend more money or I can work more overtime. And then it got to a point where I was super stressed out about it. And I think the feeling of it was horrible. I think it was the feeling that, we're in over our heads, like I'm drowning. And it got to a point where, I sat down. I remember it was July of 2010. And I sat down at the computer and I said, what in the world is going on? So I went back and I started researching our bank account. And I'm like, how did we spend last month did we spend like $700 at Costco? How did that happen? Of course, how did we spend $400 at Target last month? On what, doing what? And that's pretty much when it started for us. Or at least, and Jackie and I sat down and we looked at this and we're like, wow, okay, we got to do something. This is ridiculous.
Well, I don't think it's an overnight thing either. It's something that happens gradually over time, months, most of the time, I think even years. And then it's like, how did it get like this? When I think about our finances now, I often compare it to someone getting healthy. You don't get unhealthy overnight. It takes years of bad habits. And then one day you look in the mirror and say, how did I get here? How am I going to get out of this? What am I going to do to change this? And it's, for us, the way, because I like to think of it that way, is because staying out of debt isn't going to just happen because you're out of debt. It's going to take maintenance. You have to still do your budget meetings. You still have to have your goals. You still have to be disciplined and work hard. You can't just get out of debt and just say, okay, we're done. It's over. We did it, yay for us. It's something you continually work on, just like your health. You get healthy, it's not gonna stay that way unless you maintain it. So keep your goals, set them, keep them, do the hard work that it takes to do that. It gets easier once you do get out of debt, but getting there, it's just like starting it is the hardest part, and you feel so overwhelmed, like that gorilla weighs so much on your back that you just feel like, how am I going to start?
Well, we made a decision that we're not going to live that way anymore. So we put our money on paper and we wrote it down, and we did a written budget for the first time in my life. I don't know if you'd ever been on a budget prior.
Not like a written budget.
I mean, we knew how much was coming in, and we knew every single dollar was going out. We knew where it went.
The first budget we did took 6 hours.
Yeah, 6
and
hours.
I'm not exaggerating.
And we had to take a break.
6 hours because we had to keep shuffling things around and taking things out. And just one of the hardest things to do in the beginning is differentiating between a need and a want. And you get so used to your wants being needs when they're truly not needs. And so we started, okay, the things that we need. And one of the things that I think was very important that we did was, on the top of our budget is giving. And that is the first thing that we did. And before we took the class, we weren't giving anything on a continual basis. It was, oh, we got a little extra money, let's tithe a little bit. But we decided, we really felt that God was leading us down this path, and this was our way of, giving back, so to say, or doing the right thing, doing it the right way, God's way. And so we decided we need to start tithing. It wasn't 10%. I don't even think it was 1%, but it was something that we could do in the beginning. And that was the first big change that we did in our budget, was we started tithing immediately. Even with almost $40,000 in debt, that was our decision. We need to tithe immediately. That needs to come before we start spending on ourselves.
I was relieved when we paid off the car. And that was our last debt that we paid off. If it was more of a relief, and then thinking about a couple days later sets in, and I really start feeling excited, and all the emotions are going on. But I think the different thing for me now, I mean, just today as we're filming this video, we had a nail in the tire in our one car. So I take it in there to the car place, and we're getting an oil change in the car done. And so he calls me, the guy from the car place or the tire place. He calls me and says, "Yeah, you know that nail went into your sidewell, so you're gonna have to buy a new tire." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "It's gonna be, like $200 instead of the $36 because everything else was covered. It's gonna be $279." And I was like, "Okay."
In August 2010, we would have been like, $200.
Pulling
Where
out
are
our
we gonna get
hair.
$200?
So am I happy about spending $200 on a tire? No, I would rather have that money go somewhere else. But I was like, okay, when can I pick it up? All right, sounds good. See you then. Click. And I wasn't even stressed about it. And that happened a couple of times through the journey where, like a medical bill would pop up or,
and your car will break down. As soon as you get your emergency fund, your $1,000 emergency fund, your car will break down.
So aside from being debt free, because that was obviously our goal, our ultimate goal, and now we're free. I mean, we are free from that financial burden of owing people money, with the exception of the house. The biggest byproduct for me personally is the relationship that I have with my wife now, and the communication that we share. Before July of 2010, we were in a hard place financially. Our marriage was in a hard place. I mean, it just felt like the world was crumbling. And we changed this one aspect of our life, and we tell our money where we want it to go and how we want it to help us. All of a sudden, we're debt free. But through that process, we grow. And our marriage now is stronger than it's ever been. And the only thing that we've truly changed, is our finances. I mean, we've lived in the same house when we started this process. I have the same job when we started this process. We paid off debt, and we had a plan, and we communicated that, and we agreed, and we put it on paper, and we sat down, and
it did force us to communicate and be honest, not fake communication, but honest communication of, this is how I feel, and this is how, I feel about this. This is how we feel about this. And once we were able to do that, it just made everything so much easier.
I could never, ever, ever go back to living the way that we lived. Ever.
There's nothing worth ever being in that situation.
If our car breaks down, I will buy a $1,000 car. I will never have a car payment, even if it's 0% interest. I will never be a slave again. Because I truly believe that in my heart, that the borrower is slave to the lender, and I will never, ever owe another person another dollar. For me, the biggest motivating factor for that is my marriage. I don't want to live that way. I don't want to have that distraction between our marriage.
That's a good word, a distraction. When you have that much financial burden, it is a big distraction, and it's hard to focus on family, kids, each other, when you're so focused on this big gorilla that's on your back, constantly weighing you down. And that's...
Yeah. I've never felt this at peace and happy.
At peace. It's so peaceful. It's so peaceful knowing you need to spend $200 on a tire and you have the money because you planned for that. And it's so peaceful knowing that if someone breaks a wrist, we can pay for that. And it's peaceful just knowing that we're never going back to that again.